unbutton the top, show a little bit of cleavage. My man was all over it.
Bloody hell.
My man was all over it. And the girls, they didn't give a fuck about him anyway, but they just like the fact that they could wrap this guy around their fingers.
How old was they then?
I was about 15 at the time.
Oh, yeah.
But them girls, they were dealing with men that were like 23 and
They knew how to do their body even at that age.
Yeah. When I was 15 and stuff, the girls, they weren't looking at guys like me. They were dealing with men who were selling drugs on the road. Right. And they'll come and they'll fucking park their car outside the school, right? And they'll be giving you screw face.
Right.
Like, you're coming out to school, you're just minding your own business and you got them sitting there fucking screw facing you and shit like, and you see the girls, and they run in their car and they drive off. That's how it used to go down, and that kind of shows because, you know, we've got that guy, Sarnetta, had come out this week saying that GMS is the most sincere group and stuff. Yeah. Which is fair. I'll give the man his credit, he's coming and he's saying the truth. But before they were getting on us for the so-called rape thing, right? And the apostles brought out the fact that a young woman will be married up to an older man. So that's actually a natural thing, because even in this society, as I say, when I was a teenager, even from fucking age 12 and shit, them girls, they weren't looking at guys on their age range. They were dealing with guys on the road who were much older than us. They'd be dealing with all them guys, man. So it's just natural for the woman to go with an older man. But in this society, it's like everybody's like, they don't want to acknowledge the truth of that. They want to make like, oh, well, it's rape, it's rape. Dirty old man, he's a dirty old man. Yeah, but it's really, that's just how it's supposed to go, because the man is supposed to be able to provide for his household. Now, when you're a young man, let's say you get to the age of 12 or something, what you would do is you know, kind of get what do you call it, an apprenticeship type of thing, where you'd like what Jacob did. He went to work for is it Jethro for 7 years, and after 7 years he got Leah, if I remember correctly. No, it's Jethro was Moses' father. Who was the one who Jacob worked for?
Jethro was Moses' stepfather, father-in-law. Yeah.
So Jacob worked for Laban. Is it Laban? I believe. Let me just check that. Bear with me.
Yeah. Come
It's lucky, I don't want to teach the wrong thing, obviously. So Jethro was Moses' father-in-law. Yeah. Jacob's father-in-law was Laban, I believe. Who was the father of Rachel and Leah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I remember now. Yeah.
Just. Let me just confirm this, right, before I go on. Yeah, right. There we go. Right, Genesis 29. Right, so let me read Genesis 29 from verse 13 to give you a bit of context on what I'm saying, right? So it says, and it came to pass when Laban had heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son. So Jacob's mother was his sister, so that would have been Jacob's uncle technically, I guess. Right, he said that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him into his house, and he told Laban all these things. And Laban said unto him, surely thou art my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him in the space of a month. And Laban said unto Jacob, because thou art my brother, shouldest thou service me for naught? Tell me what thy wages shall be. And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favoured. Right? And Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter. So basically, in those 7 years, Jacob would work under this man, and in those 7 years, he built himself up to where after 7 years, he's able to support himself and have his own household. That's kind of how it would work. So that's part of the reason why, in the ancient world, a younger woman would be married unto a slightly older man who is already at that point, who is able to sustain himself and provide for his family. It's just the natural order of things. So you can't get upset with the natural order of things. That's how it's supposed to be. And the way that the women I was speaking about when I was at school used to conduct themselves was actually a natural thing, but it's obviously done in a wicked way, because they were being harlots, because they were dealing with multiple men, you know? Yeah. But back to the point, because the point I was making was, it's like I lost my train of thought. I was talking about school and how I thought it was a waste of time. And so So lucky, can you remind me what I said? Because I said there was this teacher, but what did I say before that? Because I lost my flow. Salakia.
Yeah, we was talking about the schools.
I was talking about serpents just generally.
Oh yeah.
Serpents
Joe Biden and the children are wicked.
Yeah. For for that. So yeah, back to the point. I was reading with the Wisdom of Solomon 4, wasn't I? So yeah, a lot of children are wicked, man. In Psalms 58 verse 3, I'll read that quickly before I get back into Wisdom of Solomon, the 4th chapter. Psalms 58 verse 3 states, right, just pulling it up here. Right, Psalms 58 verse 3, the wicked, which is you Edomites, the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. So you got to get it out of your head that children are somehow, they're innocent and they're somehow above judgment or exempt from judgment. No, children die every day, unfortunately, man. A lot of children die every day. And you know what? That's all the judgment from Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. And even Job proves that, because Job said, whoever perished being innocent, or where were the righteous cut off? You know, so we've all done sins worthy of death. And even if a newborn baby comes on the earth today, what you've got to remember is that baby is coming from a judgment, because that baby lived a previous life, and when it done whatever it did in its previous life, it died, it went up to the spiritual realm, and Yahawah said, look, you're going to rest for a short time, but you did this, you did that, you did that, you did that. When you go back on earth, this is what's going to happen to you, and you're going to live this type of life, and you're going to die, and blah, 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 blah. Or however it goes, I don't know how the Lord puts it, but he says this is going to be a judgment, because King Solomon said, under the sun is the place of judgment. So this earth is the whole place of judgment. We come out to play out our judgments. Even us brothers right now standing here, we're doing this because we were foreordained to do this. Right. When we lived our previous lives, we lived, we died, we went up into the spiritual realm, and as we know, the spirit of the prophets is subject unto the prophets. So the Most High said, okay, you're going to rest for a time, but you did this in your life, you did that in your life, I won't be happy with that. So when you come back on the earth, I'm going to give you this thorn in the flesh, or you might go through this adversity, or you might cross the road one day and you're going to get hit by a car, but then you're going to turn around, you're going to get up, and I'm going to make my words known unto you, I'm going to prophesy. Any manner of things can happen, because brothers come from, every brother in this truth comes from a different background, not all of us come from the same background. We've all had our fair shares of adversities and trials and tribulations, but at the end of the day, we all have a cross to bear. So going back to this children thing, back in Wisdom of Solomon 4, get back to where I was. It's beautiful, man, because again, this actually gives you peace of mind, because when you understand the scriptures and when you understand the judgment of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, things just make sense. It just makes sense, because before I came to this truth, it's like I had a constant headache all the time, because I'm thinking, nah, man, this don't add up, man, that ain't right. Like, for example, you go to school, I'm going to bring this up because we just had yesterday the fireworks night, bonfire night, right? Right. And I said to the brother before we opened camp, I said, you know what, man, when I was younger, I used to be into like the English history books, like reading about King Henry and reading about, the gunpowder plot and this, that and the other. For those of you who don't know, who might not be from over here, the gunpowder plot is essentially where a character named Guy Fawkes, who I believe was working on the behalf of the Roman Catholics, was set up to try and murder the king at the time, who was King James I, who is the same King James I who authorized the translation of the 1611 Bible, which is what we read today, which gives us the word of the Most High. But in 1605, I believe it was, I think it was 1605, what they did is they had a conspiracy where they attempted to murder the king, and the way they intended to do it was to dig a tunnel under the Houses of Parliament and fill the tunnel with barrels of gunpowder. Now what they were going to do is fill it up with gunpowder, and they were fucking, Esau's a fucking crafty fucking devil, man. Like, they spent months, they bought this house, and they dug a tunnel for months till they got onto the House of Parliament. Then they secretly shipped in these barrels of gunpowder, stocked the place up, right? And on the night of the 4th of November, because they were supposed to hold Parliament the next day on the 5th, I believe, on the night of the 4th of November, Guy Fawkes was supposed to sneak down into these tunnels and ignite the gunpowder, and it would cause the whole Houses of Parliament to blow up, and King James I would have been killed. However, on the night that he went down there to ignite the gunpowder, they had searched the tunnels, and I think there was somebody who was covering for them, and they were able to cover it up, and they didn't find the gunpowder. But they searched the tunnel again later that night, and they caught Guy Fawkes in the act when he was just about to light the gunpowder, and he got hemmed up. Right? He got caught. They arrested him. Now, what happened is they basically tortured his ass brutally. Like, they put him on the rack. The rack is where they tie your hands and your feet, and they turn the wheel, and it stretches you out. And they've done all other manner of torture to find out, look, who are you working for? Who are your conspirators? Blah, 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 blah. He tortured him for a while. Eventually, he ended up making a confession. And it was, I think it was him, a guy named Robert Catesby, and a couple of others, maybe about 6 or 7, maybe 8. They all got caught, and the judgment that they had to suffer was that they were hung, drawn, and quartered. Now, what it means to be hung, drawn, and quartered is they hang you. First of all, they drag you through the streets of the city by horseback. Then they hang you by the neck until you're almost dead. But before you die, they cut you down, and then they tie you to these posts, and then they disembowel you. Basically, they cut out your, they cut open your stomach and start taking out your intestines. They cut off your balls and everything else, right? And then after all of that, they quarter you. They cut off all your arms and your legs, and then they cut off your head, and then they stick your head on a pike on Tower Bridge. That's the that's basically the gunpowder plot, right? Brief little history lesson. There's a brother who could probably tell it better, because Kal's really into the ancient history of England and stuff. But so that's the story I always grew up reading when I was a child. And the thing that always struck me and never sat right, is I'm reading this story, and the way the books would portray it is that it was such a tragedy that Guy Fawkes was caught just before he lit the gunpowder. They were like, oh, if he just had an extra minute, he would have been able to successfully ignite the gunpowder, and their plot would have succeeded. And I'm like, hang on a minute, but this guy, that's high treason. The guy tried to kill the king. Why are you uplifting this guy when he tried to murder your king? Well, it turns out, as we know, King James was a Jake. And the guys in the gunpowder plots, the guys in the gunpowder plot, they were Edomites. And they were trying to assassinate the righteous king at the time, right? So now when they tell that story in the history books, they spin it and they try and put all kind of dirt on King James, as if to say King James was a madman. Like they say, oh, but King James, he wrote a book called Demonology, or that's what they taught me in school. Like, oh, he wrote a book called Demonology, so he was paranoid and all this kind of shit. And now the new one, they say, oh, King James was a sodomite. All these fucking blasphemous lies to try and discredit the king. You got to ask yourself, why are they doing this? King James was not a sodomite. King James was not an Edomite. He was an Israelite, and he got he authorized the translation of the Bible that we hold today. So it's all through the spirit of the Most High that gunpowder plot failed, because King James was used to translate these words so that we can be teaching them now. So the Most High, he knew what was going on, right? But the point I want to make is that over here in the UK, on the 5th of November, they have what's called Bonfire Night, where you have predominantly Edomites, but you know, Jake sometimes get involved in it too because they don't know no better, right? You can even hear it now, they light the fireworks, right? So you get these people, they buy these fireworks and they light them up and they let them off, and they also get bonfires, and they get a little doll, and they say penny for the guy, and they make this little doll like an effigy, and they put a bonfire and they burn it. Now you got to ask yourself, why are they commemorating someone who tried to kill the king? Don't make no sense, right? Don't make no sense. If someone came up and they tried to murder old ass Queen Lizzie out there, they'd be like, nah, it's treason, and blah blah blah. But yet they uplift Guy Fawkes. Now the reason why is because these Edomites were plotting to kill the king. But a lot of people don't know the history, so they get involved with it. But that's really what it goes back to. So I can't remember how I got onto that topic, because, oh yeah, that's one of the things that struck me as odd about when I was at school. Like, that's why I always had this constant headache, because it's like, nah man, that don't make no sense. Another one that don't make no sense, right, is Christopher Columbus. How can my man go over on this ship and claim to discover the Americas when there are already people living there? don't make no sense. It don't add up. You know, so you're thinking, hang on a minute, that ain't right. How can my man go over there claiming he discovered this land when there's already people living there? You didn't discover shit. And he went there with Hebrew interpreters. So he knew what he was expected to find when he got there. But the education system perpetuates these lies, and the simple believe everything. The simple will just believe it and not question anything. That's why you got people who now that they're grown-ass adults, and they're turning around and saying, I took the serpent's juice and now I've got all these side effects, but I trusted the government. Well, that shows that you wasn't really, you were never really questioning anything. You just swallowed up all the lies that Esau ever fed you, and now you're in a situation, you've been put in a situation where you've had to make a tough choice, and now you've made the wrong one, and now your ass is paying the price for it. Because as Apostle Tahar said, as the brother brought out earlier, once you take that serpent juice, you're fucked. You're fucked, because you can't get that stuff out, man. You can't turn that stuff off. There's no off switch for the serpent's juice, man. So you've got to stay away from that stuff at all costs. Which again goes back to the scriptures, because once you know the scriptures, you know Leviticus 19 verse 28 clearly states that you're not supposed to make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. Those are the instructions that we've got from Yahawah. So if we are doing the right thing and we're adhering to his words, you know, Yahawah said, if you love me, keep my commandments, which is what the brothers in the truth have been doing. We know that we're not supposed to be getting no injections and stuff like that. So we know how to see our enemy aforetime, and we can avoid, Lord willing, through the grace of Yahawah and Yahawashi, we can avoid that outcome and that fate. And in doing so, we're demonstrating our faith in Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, because Esau's going to try and scare you by saying, yeah, well, you know, the infection rates are going up and we've got cases through the roof and hospitals are full of people who have who haven't taken the shot. That's all scaremongering, man. And that goes back to what I said earlier about the importance of fear being put in its correct place. Because when you fear Yahawah and Yahawashi, you will fear transgressing his commandments. You will fear breaking his commandments. So therefore, when you're put with that choice, oh, should I put my faith in the government? Or should I put my faith in Yahawah and Yahawashi? Really, you're supposed to put your faith in Yahawah and Yahawashi and say, you know what, man? Fuck you, Esau. I'm not taking your fucking serpent's juice. So that's where it's at, man. So I'm going to go back to Wisdom of Solomon, the 4th chapter. Bring some more out on this, Lord willing. I want to bring out another one actually, bear with me, before I go back to Wisdom of Solomon 4, another precept just entered into my mind about how children aren't exempt from judgment. Right, here's another precept, right? This is in the book of 2 Kings, right? 2 Kings chapter 2, starting from verse 23. And it says, now you start from 22, right? It says, 2 Kings 2:22. So the waters were healed unto this day, according to the saying of Elisha, which he spake. And he went up from thence unto Bethel.
Oh yes, that's right? A good one, that's a good one.
And as he was going up by the way, there came forth little children. Let me break that down again, right? And as he went up from thence unto Bethel, and as he was going up by the way, there came forth little children. So they weren't no grown ass, like almost to be adult children. These are little children, right? Out of the city, and mocked him, and said unto him, Go up, thou bald head, go up, thou bald head. Because Elisha had a bald head, so they were mocking him, saying, you know, go up, thou bald head, go up, thou bald head. They thought it was funny. See, they all thought it was banter, fun and games and jokes. Well, guess what? Yahawah brought a judgment in their hearts that caused them all to stop laughing. It says, right, let me read that again. And as he went up from thence unto Bethel, and as he was going up by the way, there came forth little children out of the city and mocked him, and said unto him, Go up, thou bald head, go up, thou bald head. And he turned back and looked on them, and cursed them in the name of Yahawah. And there came forth 2 she-bears out of the wood and tear them, 40 and 2 children. Right? So basically 2 she-bears came out from the woods and they tore apart 40 and 2 children. Imagine that. How many children do they have in the school class these days? About 30 children, right? So that's just over roughly a whole school class. I say what? A whole class of children in a third. 40 and 2, roughly about that. So that's how many children got slayed in one day because they mocked the prophet. So now that brings me back to the point. Now Biden's coming with his clock shot for the kids. A lot of them are going to die, man. And it's no point getting up in your feelings about it. Be like, oh, the children and the children. Oh. Well, a lot of children are wicked, man. And as I said before, they're coming back for their judgment. A lot of newborn babies that you see walking around, you know, or even pregnant women. You see women walking around with pregnant women, walking with babies. Guess what? Them babies are coming to catch their judgment when Yahawashi returns. Because if the plagues and the famines and everything else don't kill them, guess what? Thermonuclear destruction is coming. In Babylon the Great, which is America, there's nobody getting out of there who ain't getting out of there on a chariot. Now the elite are going to survive because they're going to go into their deep underground military bases, but they're being saved for further judgment. Because when we come down off those chariots, Lord willing, we'll be of the elect. Our first duty is going to be to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron. And we're going to put the elites into slavery. And guess what? Their first job is going to be burying the dead and cleaning up the earth, man. They're going to get to work, man. They're going to be put into hardcore bondage, man. And they're going to pay for the affliction that they've put on the children of Jacob, man. On us Israelites, man. Because don't think it's stopped, man. Like, for example, when I'm teaching out in Brixton with Elder Dawada, we got Edomites coming up to the camp looking at us sideways because we show images of Jake's being lynched. And they turn around and they talk shit saying, oh, but that's in the past, that's in the past. Well, guess what? The Most High requires that which is past. The Most High ain't forgot, man. Just because he held his silence doesn't mean he's complicit with you, man. As the scriptures say, they thought he was altogether as one of them because they haven't been judged for what they've done. But the Most High was just laying back in the cut saying, yeah, you know what? I'm going to let your sins mount up. Now your sins have reached their apex. Now the judgment's going to come for that. Right? And another scripture is, Most High requires that which is past. Another one is just because sentence against an evil work is not carried out expediently, therefore it is fully setting them to do wickedness. Let me get that actually. It's wisdom of Ecclesiastes 8, 8 and 3. Let me get it. Yeah. It's lucky. Do you have precept?
No, carry on.
Okay. Right, Ecclesiastes 8. Right, Ecclesiastes 8 and 11. Because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully setting them to do evil. Right? So because people aren't getting jacked up straight away, they think, you know, I done it and I got away with it. I done it and I got away with it. But guess what? You ain't getting away with shit. You don't get away with shit, man, because everything is seen. Because the eyes of the Lord are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. Right? So, the Most High sees everything, but it's up to him when he pulls your tab, man. When he pulls your card. So when your card gets pulled and you get judged, that's it, man. Now, you might get judged when you're a child because, as I say, children do die every day. Children die every day. Is it raining? You know, I'm good because I'm sheltered under the tree. There's nothing at me. Yeah, but so children are going to get jacked up. So I'm going to go back to Wisdom of Solomon, the 4th chapter. Read that again. And as I say, once you understand this truth, you make peace with it, man, because you understand that the Lord's will is what our will should be, what the Lord's will is. Because in the prayer, is it in Matthew 6? Let me get this quickly before I jump back to wisdom. The prayer in Matthew 6 says this. Right. Matthew 6 on verse 5. And when thou prayest, thou shalt... No, that's not what I want. Matthew 6 and 6. So like in Matthew 6 and 7. But when ye pray... Oh, Matthew 6 and 8. Matthew 6 and 9. Right, so like I had to jump down here. Matthew 6 and 9. After this manner therefore pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in heaven as it is in earth. So when we're praying, we're not praying for what our will is. Because what happens is when you come into this truth and you get built up, your desires start to go out the window. For example, before we was talking on this topic, we was talking about a lot of the men who have made it in Esau society. For example, you know, your mighty men, your sports stars, your film stars, they'd be considered mighty men in this world, right? That they're doing their will. And it was the will of the Lord for them to go into those fields. Now, many of us brothers in the truth, like the brother gave the testimony of, we all had ambitions of things we wanted to do before we came to the truth. But you know what? Yahawah Yahawashi had different intentions for us. So therefore, we were never able to fully accomplish those things which we might have had desires to do in the world. Right? So what happened at that point is that our will became transformed, and we became transformed, we became born again, and our desires were to see the will of Yahawah Yahawashi be fulfilled. That's now our meat. Our meat is to do the will of Him that sent us. You know, just like Yahawashi, we followed in His footsteps. Right? He said, my meat is to do the will of Him that sent me. So Yahawashi was doing the will of the Heavenly Father, which is Yahawah. Likewise, we have to carry our cross and do the will of the Heavenly Father. So when we're praying now, we're praying for the Lord's will to be done, not our will to be done. And that's a mistake that a lot of Christians make, because when you've got Christians praying, a lot of them are praying for things such as prosperity. I want to be rich, I want a new job, I want a new wife, I want a new car, I want a new husband, I want a new house, I want more children, I want more holidays a year. You know, they're praying for those stupid carnal things. But when you pray, you're supposed to pray in this manner. I'm going to repeat it again. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. See, thy will be done, not our will. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. So we're praying for the things that the Most High wants. And that ties into Proverbs 3 verse 5. Let me just quickly get that. Because when you start to become a new man, you have new desires, man. Our desires are scepters and thrones. You know, before we were thinking, oh yeah, I want to be a musician, I want to be a sports star, I want to be an artist, I want to be an MMA fighter, right? Now our desire is scepters and thrones. We want rulership, man. We want to be able to execute judgments on the earth in order to bring about righteousness. Right. That's what we really want. That's what really is needed, man, because anything you get in this world is going to perish, man. Like, let's say you do make it in this world, you become a celebrity, your fame is not going to be remembered in the kingdom. Like the Elder Ma'ad always says, right? You've always had actors and singers and sports stars and gladiators throughout all the ages, right? But in the scriptures, how many singers are recorded? Now you've got some people who, you know, contributed to the book of Psalms, but they contributed in righteousness. You're not going to hear about the worldly stars of that time recorded in the scriptures, and there would have been many of them, because this book covers nearly 7,000 years, right? If I'm ever not mistaken, nearly 7,000 years in history. So there've always been singers, and because they come back in their lot too. Like these famous singers, you know, your Michael Jacksons, your Mariah Careys, they've always, like Prince. Prince is a great example. You know, the apostles break down how he used Beethoven in a previous life. Wow. And they say that, you know, Stevie Wonder might have been Prince might have been Mozart, and Stevie Wonder might have been Beethoven, you know? So these singers come back in their lot, these sports stars come back in their lot, they're doing what they've always done, the wicked come back in their lot, the prophets come back in their lot, which is why King Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. So, where did I want to go? I read that one, so we're going back to Wisdom of Solomon 4. No, I was just going to quickly get Proverbs 3 verse 5 to edify that point. Very good. And this is beautiful. come to this point of understanding. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 says, trust in Yahawah with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. Let me read that again. Proverbs 3 verse 5. Trust in Yahawah with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear Yahawah, and depart from evil, and it should be health to thy navels and marrow unto thy bones. So basically, as I said, when you become born again, your will just goes out the window, man, and it's like, you know what, man, I'm not going to think about what I want, because again, you've got a lot of people who come up to the camp and they talk shit by saying, like, we're breaking down scriptures to them, and then they come and say, okay, that's all good and well, but I think, and they come out with some shit, and it's like, yeah, but I think, and they come out with some next shit. Well, guess what, man? When you come into this truth, I think don't come into the equation anymore. You learn to judge with righteous judgment. You turn to the scriptures and you do what's pleasing to the scriptures. You do what's pleasing according to the scriptures, and that's your desire. And that's what's pleasing to the Lord. You know? So again, Proverbs 3 verse 5, trust in Yahawah with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. Now tying that back to the point of children being put to death, a lot of people are going to get up in their emotions about that, but what I'm telling you is that, look, man, with all the judgment that's going to come on earth, them emotions are going to have to go out the window, man, because the scripture said in Job, gird up thy loins like a man. We're going to see great death, man. So lucky, I'm jumping around a bit, but I'm just flowing in the spirit. We're going to see great death. I want to get Psalms 91. Yeah, I was watching them. I thought they were going to come over, but they... Psalms 91. Right, Psalms 91 from verse 1. I'm going to read it because there's a lot of good meat here. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Now, as I say, when you come to this truth and you become born again and you start to walk in the path that Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi set out for you, you're walking on a thin, narrow path, but so long as you stay on that path and you're sincere, the Most High is going to look after you, man. Even if you have to be made a martyr, the Most High is still going to take care of you, because scriptures say, precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. You know, so we're going to be looked after, man. But it says, I will say of Yahawah, he is my refuge. He is my fortress and my power, in him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver me, surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings thou shalt trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. Here's the point. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. So this is what I'm saying, we're going to see great death, man. We're already starting to see the very humble beginnings of this. You know, a lot of people who have taken the clock shot are dropping, but we're going to see a lot more. And don't be surprised when a lot of the more death we see is of these children. Because what you got to understand,